Hello everybody, this is Kat Garcia with Grounded Insights, and today we have Rob Derow, the Managing Director and Partner at the Boston Consulting Group with us. Rob, we're very excited to have you here with us. It's not every day that we get to meet leaders like yourself who has, a plethora of experiences working alongside corporations and consumer companies, really changing the world as we see it today. And so we're most recently at Cannes Lyon with BCGX. Can you share what were the greatest takeaways from your time there? There's a lot of trends, a lot of new developments and technologies, and so want to better understand what were those topics of conversations? What do brands and consumer companies really care about today?
Yeah, it was a fantastic show. I mean, it's hard to beat the South of France. A couple of things that stood out to me was one, particularly from a technology perspective, lots of talk about personalization, lots of talks about optimization, Gen AI. It was really very much a tech-forward show, and perhaps I was expecting a little bit more on the creative side, but very kind of ad tech, martech, media heavy, and seeing folks really leveraging the tooling to drive to better outcomes. A couple other things were the creator economy. I think that's not a surprise to anybody, but really seeing the power of influence, the power of ambassadors, content creators, and unique ways you can sponsor and interplay with those content creators from an advertiser perspective. And then I mentioned Gen AI. I think Gen AI, last year or over the last year has had a lot of hype. I think people are trying to find real practical use cases to unlock efficiency, to reduce costs, to increase creative variance. I think there's a little bit of a wait and see and an excitement around this application layer that soon should be coming, but definitely a presence there. But my biggest observation was really probably around the technology aspects of personalization, and then this creator economy really coming into full speed and really kind of top of mind.
It's interesting that you're talking about different trends, developments, technologies. It seems like there's going to be a lot of disruption, but I guess it also depends on the verticals. So in your opinion, what are you seeing in terms of specific verticals? How are they going to be disrupted?
Yeah, one of the things I've been looking at is, and I'm kind of trying to coin it as complicated commerce or complex commerce. And so, I think in Commerce 1.0, you had, really simple retail experiences coming online, very easy for the consumer to understand and transact. And I think what you're seeing now, and particularly with Gen AI and some of the conversational commerce elements, is some of these more challenging commercial situations starting to become digitized. So think of large purchase like automotive or B2B. Think of things that historically had required a sales rep, and now you can really have that engagement. Whether it's full-on Gen AI chat concierge that's a large language model or a decision tree, or something that just escalates you to human intervention, I think you're going to start to see the digitization of some of these more complicated commerce processes. We're seeing it a lot in FI and insurance from an industry perspective, so finance and insurance, whereas historically, it'd be much harder to onboard someone for a life insurance policy or to get a wealth advisor, things like this. And so I would keep an eye on, complicated commerce, complex commerce, B2B, and this kind of second coming of e-commerce.
Many consumer companies are set to grow in Q4. Q4 tends to be when a lot of these companies are setting to hit their numbers. And so what advice do you have for consumer companies really seeking to see short-term growth? And how do you advise them to also think about the relationship between short-term versus long-term growth?
Yeah, I mean, one of the real pillars or the underpinnings of a lot of the work we do with our clients is around measurement, and it's normally where we start. I like to say, build your analytical and attribution framework and kind of pour the ideas in, and then run an agile test and learn process. And so first, holistic measurement architecture. So what tools are in your toolkit? Are you using a medium mix model and regression? Are you doing some form of MTA? Try to avoid black box MTA, but some type of click and view pathing. And are you experimenting? So what is your test and learn agenda? How are you bringing in survey data and customer feedback, as well as benchmarks against your competitors? And so nailing that holistic measurement architecture, I think, is critical for short-term or long-term. and then your, what I like to say is velocity and accuracy on test and learn. So what is your cycle time and how fast are you kind of turning the wheels on test and learn? And then what is the accuracy of the outcome? So what is the quantitative rigor you're putting in to understand the efficacy to then parlay it back into that high velocity test and learn engine. Attribution, is indicative of essentially, multiple drivers of the outcome. And so I think if your business is simple and your go-to-market motion is more easily understood, you can start to take a more simplistic measurement architecture. As you advance and as you start to layer in other channels and other additional complexity, you really need to unpack that story and look at what's driving, what key marketing motions or sales motions for that matter are driving the outcomes. Irrespective of attribution, like match markets, incrementality testing, test and control, isolation is good at any level to get a real clear signal, particularly with data loss in digital. Cookie deprecation keeps going back and forth, but there's always some data loss, and so the more you can isolate versus rely on, like, let's say, a single technology or so, the better. But I would say less complicated, don't worry too much about attribution. More complicated go-to-market motion is where you got to really think about the holistic measurement framework.
At Ground, we are an AI-enabled platform that helps consumer companies grow. And with that, usually teams are, it's a pressure cooker. And technology really helps accelerate that kind of growth. But with that, you need to be able to deal with the ups and downs. And so my favorite question on Grounded Insights is, how do you keep yourself grounded personally?
Yeah, so I have 3 boys, so they keep me busy, and so we got a lot of baseball, a lot of sports. Personally, surfing, yoga. So it's carving out personal time and family time and making sure that that's calibrated with the work-life balance. And being fortunate enough here in Southern California, we have access to a lot of great opportunities and a lot of great activities. That
is a very California answer, and I have to agree with you there. It's really wonderful to be here with you, Rob, because in many ways you have shaped, as a world-class leader yourself in the world of growth, you've shaped a lot of my insights, a lot of the way that I think about growth. When I worked at BCGX and, I was on your team, it was just so amazing to be able to work on a lot of projects together and very, very much learn on how to grow and innovate and support consumer-facing companies. And so it's, for me, what keeps me grounded is just being here with you and feeling very grateful to be able to have this experience and this exchange. So thank you so much for being here on Grounded Insights and sharing your insights. And just know that already there's been so much impact, not only with the companies and the brands that BCGX works with, but also now with Ground. So thank you. For more Grounded Insights, and if you want to hear from next-gen leaders shaping the world of consumer today, be sure to follow and subscribe.